So on this Lincoln Day celebration, I was asked to talk about what would Lincoln do. Now, I'm no Abe Lincoln. I didn't know Abe Lincoln, but I'm no Abe Lincoln. But let me try to tie in a few themes. Did you know that Lincoln was an avid baseball fan? In fact, he even played baseball pretty regularly. In fact, there's a story they tell of Lincoln playing baseball in Springfield, Illinois, when a group arrived to tell him that the Republican convention in Chicago had just nominated him for the presidency as the Republican nominee. And Lincoln supposedly told his supporters, "I'm glad to hear of their coming, but they'll have to wait a few minutes until I get my turn at bat." Now remember that quote. I'm going to get back to it in a few minutes. So once again, what would Lincoln do here in Rhode Island? Any ideas? We heard it tonight. He would form a team. Did you read Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, Team of Rivals? That was about Lincoln's Republican primary opponents who were humiliated and embarrassed at losing to this little-known and obscure Illinois lawyer. But Lincoln not only convinced them to join his administration, but he molded them into an effective team. Salmon Chase as Secretary of the Treasury, William Seward as Secretary of State, and Edwin Bates as Attorney General. He gained their respect. He pulled them together, his rivals. He pulled them together, and they dealt with the many challenges as a team, all for the sake of the greater good of the Union. Lincoln would indeed form a great team, and they would play to win. How about we win around here for once? They won a war, they won re-election, and they won freedom for slaves. In fact, if you saw the movie Lincoln, again, you saw Lincoln, described by many as a political genius, forming yet another team, a different team. This time was to win a specific policy war. It included his cabinet, members of Congress, even a private investigator, right? And a lobbyist. And the goal, again, was to win. In this case, to win abolition of slavery via the 13th Amendment to our beloved Constitution. But we know, especially here in Rhode Island, that Lincoln and types like Lincoln are not the only political geniuses in this regard. The progressive left and the unions, they're also playing to win. And they're good at it. And they've been putting a formidable team together for decades. We've seen the results in Rhode Island when they work together as a unit. Mayor Fung, a few years ago, they worked together to kill charter schools in our city. Right? They're pushing to raise taxes now. They're pushing to fight against more pension reform, supporting binding arbitration for teachers, electing friendly candidates always, looking to repeal voter ID laws. Even if they don't win every battle, and they do win most, unfortunately, they do not stop. They collaborate on critical issues, and they press on every front, unified as a team with united purpose. So we know what Lincoln would have done, and we know what the opposition does, so now the question is, what will we do? What will you do? Our side is often distracted by our own agendas, whether it's a local issue or some other single issue. We work independently, often divided, and we don't always work together for the greater good of the state. And because of this, we have lost far too many battles. And in far too many rankings, Rhode Island is a last place team, as we know. 4 numbers think of right now: 50, 50, 50, and 1. You know what they are, you've heard them. We're 50th. Depending on what index you look at, we're at or near 50th in unemployment. We're at or near 50th in population growth and out-migration to other states. We're at or near 50th in business climate. All because we're number 1 in redistribution of income policies, which means we tax and tax and tax in order to give to the special interests. That makes our state, think about it this way, the most anti-free market, anti-jobs, anti-family state in the entire nation. That's why nobody's at that table. We need a new strategy, as you've heard tonight, and we need a new game plan. We need a team approach to win. What does winning look like, though? Do we even know? Do you know? Who will provide the vision and leadership that will lead to renewed opportunities and prosperity for our citizens? Well, let me tell you first what losing looks like from our point of view as a policy think tank. What Lincoln wouldn't tolerate. Rhode Island has the highest unemployment rate in the nation, yet our political leaders do nothing about it. Nothing. There's no plans out there this year, other than our plan, which we'll tell you about in a second. We're the worst ranked state in terms of business climate, yet business leaders say nothing. The chambers, business leaders, nothing. Losers. We have one of the highest state and local tax burdens in the country, yet citizens remain silent too, and we have no one to blame but ourselves. We're losing population and wealth to neighboring states, yet defenders of the status quo stick their head in the sand and they just say it isn't so. We saddle our business sector with the highest sales tax in New England, yet our political class has the gall to even try to keep raising those taxes and broadening them. Even to some of the poorest among us, like taxi drivers and dog groomers. Now, our center's recent 0.0 sales tax plan. How many of you like to have no sales tax anymore? How would you like to have 25,000 new jobs in this state from the economic boom? But this is beyond the imagination of the ruling class. It really is. They can't imagine this. And as expected, the left, the unions, the political class, and the poverty advocates have all lined up as a team, unified, to fight against the only significant major policy reform that's out there this year. We have bipartisan legislation in both chambers on this, but I don't know if it's going anywhere. We'll see. Now, so in the face of this all, again, I ask, what will we do? Well, you wouldn't be surprised to know that we're not the first state to think about this. I'm sure Colonel West has been to a number of other blue states as well. But did you know that there is a winning strategy? Did you know that change and reform can take place and that it is indeed a team strategy? This strategy involves a coalition model that has been active in states like Wisconsin and Michigan for many years. Who would have thought 5 years ago, think back, that Wisconsin, the home of unionization, would have such massive collective bargaining reforms? Who would have thought in Michigan, the home with the auto dealers of the unions, who would have thought they not only would have defeated that onerous Prop 2 proposition that would have constitutionally enshrined all kinds of union monopolies and negotiating, who would have thought that would have been soundly defeated and that just recently they would have become a right-to-work state? Who would have thought, right? Scott Walker, recall elections. These were models of coalitions that were in place and active in those states. There was a design there. And I'm here to tell you that one of our center's missions is to build that same type of coalition here in Rhode Island. And we are building it right now, and some of your local leaders are involved in that, right here. 5 years ago, who would have thought those things in Wisconsin and Michigan?